All right, so today we will be starting our Illustrator. So Illustrator is that software which is used to create assets from scratch. Also, Illustrator, it's a very unique software to work on because if you are not into editing or photo manipulation, you can learn this from scratch and become an illustrator all without knowing Photoshop also. So all these three softwares are very unique softwares and they can be used for sketching or painting or creating amazing looking assets. Also, Illustrator will allow you to create these kind of amazing looking 3D models as well. To give you a few examples, we have a Chanel logo, which is in a 3D fashion. So you can see that this logo is in a 3D fashion and you can change or you can rotate it however you want. So this is just an example of this. I'm going to show you all the things which you are going to learn in this graphic designing course for Illustrator. So we will first be starting from a very basic understanding of the illustrations. After that, you will be understanding how you're going to use all these tools which are there in your toolbar to manage your workspace. And then we will be understanding each concept of designs and how they will be taken together to create these amazing looking assets. So I'll give you a few of the examples what you will be learning in the training. So first you will be learning about simple logos and creating simple logos and effects. And then you will be learning about complex logos, 3D ratios, and also about the golden ratio circles and their logos. So you will be learning how you can create these kind of amazing looking textures or these kind of amazing looking designs, how you can merge shapes together, which will be used for designing, or they can be used for adding any kind of any kind of design element to your main browser or banner, or if you're working with that. So here you will be having lots and lots of flexibility in working with the assets whichever you have. And all these assets whichever we're going to create, we will be posting them on our Instagram, and you can create your own portfolio as well. We have many students who have designed, who have learned these things and who design for themselves. And a few notable mentions I will just mention in here. So if you visit Instagram, also you can please visit our channel. So in Instagram, if you go in here, you should be seeing like so many assets whichever we have worked on. You should see that we regularly post whatever we are creating in classes. We're going to post them in here. So these things, I'll show you a few of my students on what they have worked on. So this is one of my students who have recently started their page as a portfolio, and they can keep them so that people can come and they can see these portfolios, and with the portfolio they can hire them. So this is also one of a very good way to start your career or to jumpstart your enthusiastic journey on a specific domain. So I would definitely suggest you to create portfolio as we are going through. So you can create illustrations, you can create your own artworks, you can create your own mockups and stuff like that, and you can bring your ideas alive. So that's basically what Illustrator is for. Illustrator is all about bringing your ideas alive. I'll show you a few of the other students as well. So this is also one of my other students who has done things with in the class itself. So all these things, whatever you see in here, they are all done right in the class, and because of that reason itself, you can create also your own portfolio of whatever we are learning in graphic designing course. So obviously you will see that we have different kinds of designs, different kinds of approach, different kinds of way of creating your own, building your own business models and stuff like that. And eventually you will be you will be becoming good in graphic designing. So illustration is, or Illustrator is uh, all to learn by understanding how you can create assets from scratch. That is basically what Illustrator is. So to start with, we will first be understanding the tools in your Illustrator, and then we will be understanding what are layers, how you can customize layers. After that, you will be learning how you can create beautiful looking sketches or diagrams in here, as you can see. So you will be learning all about this, how you can trace the image. By the way, this took about 17 hours in total to create the asset, but this is just an example of what you can do with the Illustrator. So Illustrator is so powerful that you can use to create illustrations, artworks, even single hairstrand, you can see that everything is in detail and everything can be done right from the scratch. So all this is done right in the Illustrator, but you may have to use your pen tablet. Then again, everything in here are brush strokes. So if you click on any one, you should see that how the brush stroke has been taken and how it's being colorized. So you will be learning how you can do these kind of things, but not such comprehensive complexity, not at this point, obviously, because you are still at the learning stage. But as you are going through and improving yourself, you will definitely be able to do this one day. But for now, you should understand how to use these tools or the tool set together in order to create such kind of illustrations and things. So these are, now this is just the start of your journey on Illustrator. So Illustrator itself is a standalone software which you can use to create amazing looking artworks, sketch diagrams, beautiful looking designs. You see that here we have a bone structure and the bone has text written on it. So you can create these kind of designs as well. Or here you have a 3D mock-up of a coffee cup or a coffee mug. Here we have a 3D mock-up of a box, which is having text on it. And this is the text which we have created from scratch. Everything, whatever you see in here, everything is created from scratch, no image used, nothing. So everything from scratch. So this is something which you will be learning in the entire illustrations or Illustrator itself. So with the illustrations, you will also see how you can create your own certificates. But please don't use this to create fake certificates. Obviously, you will have to face a lot of penalty in Qatar if you do so. So we will eventually show you how you can create your own certificates, how you can design your own certificates, and how you can design these kind of beautiful looking certificates, how you can use online templates to create your own customized certificates as well in future if you wish to do so. And but yes, obviously we will be having lots and lots of funs with this. Also, you can create a mock-up of iPhone for, let's say you want to create a mock-up of your TV screens. Maybe you are so fond of creating your own wallpapers. You can do that by using the iPhone mockups. So we will show you these things as you are going through. So to start with, we will first be removing everything. So all the assets I'm going to remove, so we can start everything from scratch. So let's get started with this. All right. So first things first, what we will be doing is we will be creating a new artboard. You see that this workspace or this thing which you see on the screen is what we call it as a workspace. So workspace is that area in which you will be adding your asset, or you're gonna create your asset, and from there you will be starting your work. So to understand the workspace, let me quickly go through a few of the things which are on the screen. So the top section which you see, this is what we call it as the menu bar. So your menu bar has file, edit, object, type, select, effect, view, window, help, all these different tabs. It doesn't matter if you're using a MacBook or if you're using a Windows, you can still find the exact same options in both operating systems. So in this case, we are using Mac, and because of the MacBook, you may find an Apple logo on top. Maybe Illustrator is somewhere in here, and I may have a little different preferences. So in your case, if you're using a Windows version of Illustrator, you will find the same settings in Edit and Preferences. I have preferences in here, but in your case, you will find that in Edit Preferences. So that's the only difference. Apart from that, I will explain you those differences as well as I'm going through. So now in here, we have the layers panel on the right side. If you are new to this workspace, you will see this instead. All right. So you will see this instead. Exactly the same workspace as I'm in right now, you should also be seeing it. If you don't see this, you probably be in a different workspace. So how would you change the workspace? So to change the workspace, you have to click on this button over here, and you will have different options to work on. So you have automations, essentials classic, layout, painting, all these different things in here. So what we will be learning our main core subjects on will be in Essentials Classic. So we will click on Essentials Classic. And as soon as you click on that, you should be seeing the same workspace as I'm in right now. So you may also see that you can check your version of Illustrator by selecting the file and selecting about. It should give you the latest version, if it's a latest version or not. If you don't have a latest version, still it would work just as fine. Anything which is 2020 and above will have identical settings, except one or two, which I will mention when I'm training. So, but for now, you see that this is the exact same version which you will be having, or even if you have a 2020 version, you are still good to go. So everything what we have in 2020 to 2022 all are exactly same except the 3D effects. For the 3D effects, we're going to show you, we have a dedicated class on both the older versions and the newer versions, which we will help you understand. Right. So for now, let's get started with the edit. So if you want to edit anything in here, first you need to understand the core asset on how Illustrator actually takes in the pictures and how it will convert it into an editable format. So for this to understand, let me open a Word file. And in this Word file itself, I will explain you the difference, the core difference between Photoshop and Illustrator. And if you're coming from an Illustrator background already, then you don't have to understand these things because you might already know this. If you're not coming from a graphic designing background, or if you're not coming from Photoshop behind, then you may find this difficult. So for that reason itself, I'm explaining you these things. So whenever you are taking a picture, let's take a picture in this case. I'm going to mute everyone, please don't mind. Okay, so let me open Photoshop and I'm going to open a picture for you so you can understand the difference. Okay, so this is the same image which we have worked on in our previous class, where we showed you how you can use these kind of designs to create your own asset. So now you see that this was the picture before, and this is the picture after. So what we did was we learned how we can take a peel image, or this image in this case, and how we can cut this in order to get this kind of effect, right? So how can we do this? How can we edit this image to make this? So that's something which we talked about in our previous class. So I'm going to remove the ruler in here, or sorry, the guides, so we can see everything in a more clear way. All right, so now this is what it is. Now you see that if I'm zooming in, you should see as I'm zooming in. Now how I'm zooming in is basically by pressing Alt, and you should just be pressing the Alt, and or you can just press this zoom tool in here, and then you can click on that. It should give you the zoom. If you want to zoom out, press and hold Alt key and click, it will zoom out. You can also press and hold, and then you can zoom in or zoom out. It will, for a smooth zoom in and zoom out, you don't have to click, but just click and drag left or right. So press and hold Alt key, click on that area, press to the left, or move your mouse to the left in order to zoom out, move your mouse to the right in order to zoom in. So that's something which you can do. I can see. So I'm going to zoom into this area, and this is how you can zoom in. So as you're zooming in, you should see that every image is made up of these small boxes. So these boxes are what we call them as pixels. So this is one pixel, another pixel, another pixel, another pixel, and so forth. So it's a combination of all these pixels together, which is combining to create an image, right? So these pixels, which creates an image, or the technology which uses to show you these pixel, is what we call it as raster or rasterization. So the process rasterization in this case is nothing but pixels to edit or to view. So rasterization is a process of converting any asset to pixels in order to edit or view them. So I'll just write this down: convert any object to pixels in order to view or edit them. So that's something which you can talk about. So that's rasterization. Rasterization is a process of converting any object. So we can take any object. In this case, you see, I'm taking a T button to bring the text. All right, so I'm writing something. Hello, I'm writing something in here. And when I write something in here, and when I'm zooming in, obviously you should see that they are made up of pixels. But when you are trying to edit them, they are still editable, which means to say, I can click on this, and now I can change this H to L, L to U, U to I, Y, whatever it is. So you can change this to anything else you want, but this is not fixed. So if you want to make it fixed, what do? You right click on here and you select raster type or rasterize type. So what this happens is now it becomes uneditable. which means to say now if I click on top, it will not give me the edit option. It would rather create a new layer on top. So that's basically what was happening before, right? So this method is what we call it as a rasterization process. So rasterization method or raster process is to convert any object into pixels or solid pixels, and they are merged now and they cannot be changed. So at this point, they cannot be changed. However, they can be moved from one place to another. They can be moved, but they cannot be changed or they cannot be edited. So that is the raster process. So rasterization will give you all these pixels. So now you see that they are now fixed as an image, and they have these pixels all around. So that's basically the raster. Now in Illustrator, on the other hand, whenever you are drawing something or whenever you're working on with something, I'll give you an example for this. I'm creating a new custom artboard. I will show you how to create this in a second. But for now, you can just have a look on what this is, right? So I'm just drawing a path in here. And you see that as I'm zooming in, no matter how much I zoom in, it's not getting pixelated. You see that it's not getting pixelated at all. Why is this happening? Because this image is not a raster, but rather a vector. So this brings us to vector. What is a vector? So vector is an object actually, which is editable and is not converted to pixel or static pixels, we can say static pixels, which means to say that they are not converted to static pixels. Now, when I'm zooming in, the pixels inside this area are regenerating themselves to accommodate my view. So what I'm doing is I'm not zooming in, I'm just moving inside the view area. So I'm just moving near to the view area, and eventually I'm getting a very clear picture. So obviously you will not get any pixelations, or you will not get any um, you know kind of pixelated image or rough image. So you get a very smooth looking image no matter how much you zoom in. So this tells us one thing. This is a very good way to create any logo. The reason is because if you create any logo as such, you can make that logo very big while still maintaining its ratios and everything. You can make it very big, and you can use the same logo for business cards, for the smallest business cards, or you can use them for the biggest banners. So you can use them for advertising banners, or you can use them for small business cards also. So you can use this for anything you want. So vectorization, it's a very good way to create assets from scratch. Why? Because they can be moved, they can be increased that size, or they can be decreased. They can be made to decrease that size, and still they will retain their quality. So here, the quality, to retain the quality, we are doing vectorization or learning the vectors or working around with vectors. So to give you a very simple example for this, I'll take one more example for you. So here I have this dragon looking logo, right? So it's a very small logo. As you can see, it's a very tiny logo, which we have. Now, let's say I want to use this for a business card. I can use this for a business card because obviously it's too small. But what now? I want to use this for a big design, or maybe something which is very big. I can increase the size of this. And it doesn't matter how much I increase, it will still retain its quality and it will still be crisp and clear. It will be a crystal clear image. So you can see that even the shortest and shortest of detail is now expanded, and they are kept as it is. No pixelation, no rasterization whatsoever. So that is the beauty of your vector. So vector, the vector image, if you take any image, if someone is telling you this is a vector image, it means that it will retain its quality no matter what size you give or no matter what you do with that, unless and until it's exported. So this pixel, or you may also ask this question that why have I not found any images as such ever on the internet? Well, there are images as such on the internet, but to make it visible or to make them compatible with any displays, they must be converted into pixels, because displays, they read information in pixels. So if I'm exporting this, it will become static. But the good thing is, as long as this is in Illustrator, it will be dynamic. It can be changed, it can be resized, you can do whatever you want with this, and it will still be crisp and clear as long as this is in Illustrator. As soon as this gets exported out, then it will lose its the ability to be vectorized, and obviously it will be converted to pixels, but you can change the size to whatever you want. So that is the basic understanding of the vectorization, the process of vectorization, and the theory of vector in Illustrator before you can even start this class. All right, so enough talking, let's start our work. So here we will start our work by simply going to the Home tab. As soon as you open your Illustrator, you should see this. This is your Home tab, or this is your Home section, we can say. And in your Home section, you will find all the projects which you have worked on recently. So in this case, I have worked on the recent file. It comes on the start. And as you're going through, you will see that these are not so recent files which you have worked on. If you want to change, you can change them by selecting the recent, and you can change them to name, you can change them to size, you can change them to kind and things as such. Now in here, I'm going for recent. You will find all your recent assets in here. Now to start with, you have more preset options to start. In this case, what I will do is I will select this more preset button in here, or you can do this. You can press escape key from your keyboard. Escape key from your keyboard. Escape key is the ESC key on keyboard. So you can just press this ESC key on the keyboard, which is here. If you want, I can show you that. Okay, so in here you have the top left key, that's your escape key. So when you're pressing the top left key, escape key, what happens is this will take you to the workspace. All right, so this is the workspace which I'm in right now. You should all be seeing the same workspace in your case. Now at this point, what we will do is we will be clicking on this button over here. This is the workspace button. And with the workspace button, we will be going ahead and selecting Essentials Classic, as in this case. So we will select Essentials Classic. And as soon as you select the Essentials Classic, this is what you will see. If you don't see the exact same thing, you can click on Essentials Classic, and then from there, you can click on Reset Essentials in order to reset everything back to scratch. So now this is your Essentials, or reset. We are resetting the Essentials. Soon after this, the next thing which we will be doing is we will be creating a new asset. So how would we create a new asset? That's the question. So for creating a new asset, what do you need to do is click on File, then click on New. So you see File, and then click on New. So as soon as you click on File and New, this will take you to a new workspace where it will show you what kind of work are you doing, or it's going to ask you this question, what kind of work you are doing. In this case, it's always suggested that you create your own workspace because it will not be heavy on your RAM or your system. So if you're using a high specs computer like mine, it should be working just as fine. But if for some reasons, if you have a low end PC or you have low configuration issue, then you can do the same thing what I'm doing in order to save some space and also to make your process or work more easier. So for this example, we will select the preset. I will name this as Excellence. You can change it and you can add your own preset in here if you wish. So I'm writing my own preset in here. As soon as I write my preset name, you have width and height. So please change the profile to pixels. The reason I'm going with pixels is because if you're selecting feet, inch, centimeters, or millimeters, it would also work fine, but you may not understand what kind of size your image will be when you are exporting. So to understand the size of the image when you're exporting with regard to pixels, you go for pixels because it is the most easier one to understand, and you can imagine these things very well because you in daily basis you are working with images with pixels. So we're going to go with pixels itself, and I'm selecting width and height to be 1000 by 1000. Then you have the bleed area. I will come to the bleed area when we are talking about printing, but for now, you don't have to worry about this. Just keep it 0. Select the color mode and change it to RGB. Don't select CMYK at this point, select RGB. From here, select the raster effect as high, which is 300 pixels per inch. PPI stands for pixels per inch. And then you set the default preview mode, and then finally click on create so as to create your artboard. You may also see that we have number of artboards which we can give. I will be giving only one artboard or one box to start our design. So I will click on create, and as soon as I click on create, it will create an artboard for me. So this is an example of how you can create an artboard and how you can start working on it. So this is the first example. Now let us understand how we can convert any raster image into a vector image. All right. So this is an example which you will be using to create digital signatures, we can say. So how we can convert any signature into a digital signature. So to understand this, I will be opening my Drive account and I have a picture of my own signature. So I have done my own signature, and then with that signature created, I have taken a picture of it. So what I will do is I will be going ahead and taking that picture itself. So I'll show you that in a second. So here I have a signature or the picture of my signature in here. So I'm going to download this right away. If you want to do this as an experiment, you can try doing it with your own signatures. And I will be bringing this image inside my Illustrator. So let me bring this image inside my Illustrator, like so. So this is the image which I just brought in. Now, please remember, this Illustrator is not like Photoshop. You right click, don't select open with and open with Illustrator. You should not do that. For instance, you should not do this. You should not go in here, image, right click, open with Illustrator. Even though it will open up in Illustrator, then too, it will be in not in the preview mode. It will go into some other mode where you will have some trouble using these tools. So to my experience, I would suggest you not to go like this, but rather create a blank workspace and then drag and drop the image in here as what you have seen. I'll just repeat myself again. So if you open the image, drag this image and drop it on your workspace. So that is the best method which you can use in order to bring the image in. Now I want to convert this signature into a digital signature, right? Why? Because maybe I don't feel that I should sign every single certificate which I get, or maybe I don't want to sign every single paper. I have a document through which I have to sign my documents on. So I don't want this. I want a stamp to be created, or maybe I want my own a digital signature to be created so I can add them in my emails and things as such. So if you want to do this, then this is the method on how you can do it. So with this, the first thing which you will be doing is go to Essential Classic Workspace. So I'm in Essential Classic Workspace, as you can see right now. So in this Essential Classic Workspace, we will be selecting the image, which you see right now. And soon after the image is selected, we will now be rotating this image. Why? Because I want the name to be kept in the straight line. So how do I rotate them is bring my mouse just above this box. Okay, so you see that we have a anchor point. So just beside the box, you bring your mouse and you should see that the cursor changes to this rotating icon. So as soon as you see the rotating icon, click on that. And while you're clicking on this, press and hold Shift key. So when you're pressing and holding Shift key and clicking on it together, now you can click and rotate this, and you should see that it's rotating in 45-degree angle. So it's going to be 45 and then 90. If you want, you can keep it in 45 also. I will keep it at 45-degree angle. So this is the name which you see of, this is the signature which we have. Now at this point, what we will do is we will be selecting only this portion and we're going to cut this portion out. So how do we do this? Let's see. So for this reason, what we will do is we will be selecting the image. So just click once on the image. If you don't click on the image, you will not see this X icon. So click on the image so you can now see the X icon on the image. You can see that big X is showing up on the image. And when this shows up in your control section, okay, so we have top section, this is the control section. You should see all the information about this. This information tells me that this is a linked file. It's an image file. The image name is img610_jpg2. This is an RGB profile image. The pixels per inch is set to 153 pixels by 272 pixels. And you have all the other information on that. In these list of buttons, you have to click on image trace. So what image trace does is that it will trace the image, convert any raster into a vector. So this, if I zoom in, you should see that this is all in pixels, right? So they're all in pixels now. So we have these boxes of pixels which are making up the image. So now what I will do is I'm going to click on the image and select image trace. Now I'm not clicking on the image trace, but rather clicking on the drop down of the image trace. So click on the drop down of the image trace. From here, go down to black and white logo. Why? Because it's having black and white image background, and this is the best way, this is the best option I see from the list. So I'm going to go and click on black and white logo. So as soon as you click on this logo, it's going to give you that the image tracing may be very slow because this is large image. Would you like to continue? At this point, we understand something, that image rasterization to vectorization takes time based on the image size. So the low image we have or the lower pixels we have, the better our tracing results will be. So for that reason, what we will do is, before we can work on this, we will crop this image so that we have less pixels to work on, and also the computer will feel comfortable giving us the actual results. So for this reason, what we're going to do is we're going to click on crop image. And when you click on crop image, you will have this option to crop linked image. Would you like to proceed? I will say okay. And from here, I'm going to crop this image by so. So I'm going to drop this box, move this box to the left side, move this box from the right side, and again, move this box from the bottom. So now I'm having, I'm happy with what I have selected. And once it's done, now what I will do is I'm going to click on apply, and you see that we have only smaller portion of the image to work on. So now the tracing becomes easier. So we are making it easier for computer to trace it. So once it's done, now we'll click on this button and select black and white logo. So as soon as you click on black and white logo, this will get converted to a vector, which means that when you're zooming in, you should no longer see pixels, but rather a fine line which has no pixelation. So that work is done, but this is not editable. It's converted to a vector, but this is not editable. So for this reason, we're going to use one more new button, which is expand. So in Illustrator, we have this expand button. So expand in Illustrator means convert any non-editable objects to an editable vector. All right, so here it's a non-editable object. Now you can see that I'm not able to do anything on this, and nor I'm able to select this signature. So what I will do instead is I will be selecting this expand button, and as soon as you click on expand, it will now give me the results. Now you can see that it's showing me path. For every box, it shows me path. And this is now converted into a vector. So now we have a vector in front of us. Now, if you want to see how it's going to look like, so I'm just going to zoom out and move it outside. Now this is a vector, but the problem is I have this white colored background. I don't want to keep this white colored background. The reason is because, let's say I want to bring this in the certificate, and if I'm bringing this in the certificate, I will see this white background patch. I'll just give you an example for that. Let's say that this is the certificate which I have, and I want to add signature of mine in here. So I'm going to copy this asset, Control C to copy it, bring it over here, Control V to paste. And now you should see that you will see a blank area, or this black area. So let me just do that here again. Okay, so now you should see that I am having this white area all along. I want to remove this white area because it doesn't look good. You see, that looks as if I have cut something out and I'm pasting it. It doesn't look good. So for this reason, what do? I expand it. So I have expanded it, but now I want to remove the white areas. So how do I remove the white areas is like this. So what you do is you're going to click on this button. This is what we call it as the layers panel. So layers panel will allow you to see how many layers do you have within this. So now if I click on this arrow key will tell me how many layers I have within that specific section. So I'm going to click on that button, and you should see we have layers panel inside the section. And within the layers panel, we have all these boxes. All these boxes have some black areas and some white areas. The white areas represents these black or these different sections. So you see, if I can select that white area by clicking on the button beside and pressing delete button, it will delete that area. But I don't want to do this. I want to quickly remove in one click only. So I want to remove all this white area in one single click. So what I can do is I can select this tool. This tool is Magic Wand tool. So I'm going to select Magic Wand tool in here, and I will be clicking on the Magic Wand tool. With that Magic Wand tool, I'm going to click on this white area. And when I click on this white area, you should see that in here, everything gets selected. You see all these white area get selected. Before, it was like this. So you see no area is selected. But when I click inside the white area, all the white buttons are selected, except the black ones or white ones are selected. Once it's selected, all I have to do is just press the delete button from your keyboard or backspace button from your keyboard, and this will delete everything and it will give you a very clean looking signature in your hand. Now you can use this signature by pressing Ctrl C. You can bring it to anywhere you want and you can paste them and you can use them as a digital signature itself. It's not only for Illustrator, you can export this and you can use them anywhere, even in documents. You can use them in your printer, you can use them in your Outlook for the digital signatures and so forth. So here you have the complete flexibility on what you want to do with signatures. So this is just an example for that. So this is an example of, or we can say this is basically an example of how you can work with raster to vector images. So if you have a raster image already with you, you can convert this entirely to a vector by using this process. However, it's not recommended for full-fledged images. You cannot just take any image and rasterize it. Obviously, that will not work. For your information, but I'll give you an example for that. So now in here, let's say I have this bottle image, right? So I'm going to bring this bottle image inside, right? And now you see what will happen if I'm going with image trace. This happens. So not every single image can be traced or it can be image traced. Why? Because for image tracing, it must be a logo or it must be having simple colored images. It must be a simple color or two color image. So it can be either black and white, either red and blue, green and blue, things as such. So it will extract these two colors out and it will make the object. So obviously rasterizing or rasterization process is already complicated and vectorization is more complex on that. So obviously it will not work with all raster images. However, it will work just as fine if you're using black and white logos or black and white signatures, black and white assets. So if you're using any black and white asset, it should work just as fine. Now, once it's made as such, you can expand this as much as you want. It will never get pixelated, nor it will get, it will not change its dimensions. Sorry, it will not change its quality, no matter how big or how small you're keeping its dimension. So now let's say I'm going to bring this image in and zoom in. You should see that it's still crisp, still fine, still looking amazing. Like so. So this is an example of how you can convert any image into a vector image, and that is an example of vectorization. So if you happen to have any questions, you can please let me know. So that was about how you can use the design. Okay, just a minute, guys. Yeah. So let's proceed with the next step. So in here, you see that we have talked about creating or converting any raster image into a vector image. Now let's understand all the tools in your toolbar. So here I have the selection tool, I have direct selection tool, and I have magic wand and lasso tool. We will only talk about these 4 tools in today's class because I don't want you to get confused with any other thing. So let's talk about these 4 tools in here. So first tool is your selection tool. Selection tool is used to select anything on the screen. So let's say I'm using the selection tool. I can use that to select any object on the screen and I can move anywhere I want. So this is an example of your selection tool. So selection tool is used to move any object from any point, and you can resize them as well by clicking on the edge, and you can resize them, you can move them, you can shape shift them on however you want. So that's an example of your selection tool. After selection tool, then we have direct selection tool. So what direct selection tool does is that it will allow you to modify the shape, not only move the shape, but rather modify them. So with this shape, you can select any of the object and you can modify the shape like such. And you can see that you can create a leaf. You can create an arrow. You can create like a half cake shape or a pizza shape. You can create sharp looking pizza shape and so forth. So you can use these buttons in here. We call these as radius curve buttons. And with those radius curve buttons, you can change the shape. So you can do all such things by using your selection tool. or the direct selection tool, sorry. So with the direct selection tool, you can go ahead and select, and you can change however you want, or like however you wish for. So with this, we can select the path, and with that path selected, we're gonna select and we're gonna drag this down. This is an example for this. Now we'll select, we're gonna select and drag this down, and you can change the shape. So you can change the shape by just clicking on the edge, and you can use that specific anchor to be changed. And now you can see, click on the edge and you can change that. So you can use that specific shape, or you can use that specific line to change shape or to add different kinds of shapes in here. So this is just an example for that. So that is about your direct selection tool. Then we have a magic wand tool. So let's say similarly, I'm having a few more objects which are in different colors. So let's say I'm giving a different color to this. Okay, and I'm going to create some more copy of the shapes. How I'm creating copy is by pressing and holding Alt key, and I'm moving the objects. Okay, so let me change the color to, let's say, some other color. All right, so I'm having these boxes in here. You can see that I have so many boxes, different colored boxes I have. So now in this case, I want to remove these black arrows from the complete picture. So if I want to remove these black arrows from the complete picture, or these black arrowheads, then I can do it in two different ways. The first way is to manually drag them out and then place these other objects. So I have to move these other objects, so I can select the black ones and I can move them like this. Right? So this is one way how I can do it. But while doing so, I'm jeopardizing the complete design. You see, I have to modify the design in order to just relocate them. So this is the one way. The other way around is not to use the movement, but rather you can directly use the magic wand tool to do the selection. So what magic wand tool does is that it will find whatever the areas are there with that same color, and it will pick everything of that same color. Now you see that I'm using a magic wand tool in here. I will click on the magic wand tool and I will click on this area. So this is what, this is a black arrow, and I will click on that. Now it will select all the black arrows which are there on the screen. It may be hidden, it may be behind some objects, it doesn't matter. It will select everything like that. And once it's selected, now you can use your selection tool. And with the selection tool selected, you can now move them to other side. So this is an example of how you can choose different sections, and now I can isolate them. So now let me use the magic wand tool for green, and we will bring the green somewhere else. Now I will use the magic wand tool for, again, the the blue, or what is that, blue, I think greenish blue, and then we can move that as well. So you can see that we can isolate designs in such way. It will work for most of the images. So even let's say this image. Now in this image I want to isolate whatever the eye color is. So if I want to isolate white areas of this, what I can do is I can go and click on that white areas, and all the highlights of this specific image is white. So you can see that the highlight of this image is white, highlight of the eye is white, again highlight of the eye is gray and white, combination of gray and white. So I can select the selection tool and I can click on that area, and everything of that color gets selected. Now I can change the color of however I want. So now I can change the color to anything else I wish. So let's say I want to make this specific effect look a little more bright. So I can use a little more brighter white to do so. And then click on OK. And now you see we got a little more brightened image, which is obviously not good. So here you can choose different kinds of like ways of how you are selecting and how you can give highlights or lowlights and stuff like that. So it's completely up to you to decide. So here you can choose specific colors or specific assets by using the magic wand tool. Then we have the lasso tool. Lasso tool is used for making selection of specific objects by just moving your mouse across that. So now let's say for this example, I want to move only this and this, these two I want to move. So what I will do is I can use the lasso tool and I can draw a box around them, and then I can use my selection tool to move them. So lasso tool is used to make selection while selecting the area of the selection, like so. And now I can use the move tool to make the movements. I can also make them larger or make them smaller. So that's about the lasso tool. Then we have the, now these are about the first four tools. Okay, so now considering only these four tools, we will now go ahead and recreate the logo of excellence, all right? So now you see that we have this excellence logo, all right? So we have this excellence logo. How do we recreate this excellence logo? So that's the question. So for recreating this excellence logo, I'm gonna go ahead and create one small box. So I'm gonna select this box and I'm going to create a box as such. If I click and drag, it's going to create an uneven shaped box. If I want to create an exact square box, I have to press and hold Shift key from my keyboard. So press and hold Shift key from my keyboard and I can draw a box. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, our logo does not have a perfect square. Rather, it has a rectangular shape. So it has a rectangular brick. So for this reason, what do? Is we will be selecting and we will be making this specific brick. All right. So I'm just creating this one specific brick. So once I have created this specific brick, now it looks okay, it looks cool, but we have a small thing in here. You see that this excellence logo has curve radius, which means to say that the corner are not sharp, but rather they are blunt. So how do we make that blunt? So for making the excellence logo blunt, what do? Is we're going to select our direct selection tool. Don't click anywhere, just press and drag the edge. It will make all the edges blunt. If you click on only one edge and then drag, you see this will happen. It will only blunt that edge. Obviously, you can use that to create multiple shapes. For example, if you want a leaf or if you want a button to be created, you can do this. If you want, let's say I'm going to create four shapes. We'll just create some variations for it. Now we can use the direct selection tool. And now you see, I can create a leaf from, or we can just create a blunt button. We can create a leaf completely. You can create like a half edge. You can create this kind of shape. You can create this kind of shape. So here you can create all these kinds of shape by just using the tool in here. So all these kind of shapes can be created just by using the direct selection tool. So obviously you can give different kinds of variations to it by just selecting the shapes. So this is about the curve radius. Now what we will do is we're going to create a rectangle in here. Okay, we're going to create a rectangle in here. And with that rectangle, we will be selecting the edge by selecting the direct selection tool. Just click and drag in order to just slightly give a curve. Okay, so now here the edge looks something like this. Okay, well and fine now. Now with this, what we will do is we're going to select our selection tool and I'm going to make a copy of this. So let me create a copy of this. How do you create a copy? Is just by selecting it and we're going to press and hold Alt key from your keyboard and we're going to bring it to the side. One, and now we will select both of them together and bring them down. Okay, so that is something which we have done. Now this is the basic logo which we have for excellence. Now let's make some variations to it. I'm going to select this logo, bring it to the right side by pressing and holding Alt key and bringing it to the right side. And then I will be grouping it, or you can group it, or you can just leave it. It's up to you. I will be deleting these layers. I don't want this. Why? I will tell you. Now you see, this is the shape which we have. What I will do now is I'm going to go ahead and select stroke. You see what is stroke? Stroke means the outline. Here there is no outline. I want to quickly switch the color to this, the fill color to the stroke. So what I will do is I will click this button. It will switch from color to stroke, right? You see this, it's switching the color to stroke. You can also do that by pressing Shift and X. So if you press Shift X, it will swap the colors. Shift X, it will show up the colors. All right. So now you can also, you can also do this. You can use that specific tool in order to do this. Give me a second. So if you want, you can do this. Select the path, and you can select Shift X in order to change the colors. So fill to stroke, stroke to fill. Now at this point, I have this black color image with me. With this black color image, what I will be doing is I'm going to use a simple technique. I will be giving a red and black variation to it. Okay, so red and black. So let's do this in here. I will select this and I'm going to click on this button. This will create a gradient stroke. Now this is not the stroke, it's a fill. So how do I give a stroke? What I will do is I will click on this area or this stroke. And when you click on this, automatically it gets selected. You can do that by pressing X also. So if you press X, it will come on top. So if you press X again, it will go back. Press X to bring this on top. And when it comes on top, I will select gradient. And with this gradient, I will select red and black because that's the color of the Excellence logo. So we will select red and black. So I will select this color point, double click. We'll change this color to red. We'll go with the next one and we'll keep it black. Same thing. Now what I will do is I will save this color in my memory. How do I save this color in my memory? Is by clicking on this area and selecting this button, it will save it. And once it's saved, it's going to also apply it to the box. So this is how your image looks like. Now what I will do is I'm going to make a copy of this. So how do I make a copy is by pressing Control C and Control V to paste. So it's pasting it on top. Now what I will do is I will make it smaller. So I'm going to click, drag, and click, drag. I'm going to only make it a little smaller, not much, only a little smaller. So make it at the edge like so. Okay, this is fine. Now, once this is done, I will select this and press Control D to do that remaining step. You see now what I'm going to do. Or you can also do this. You can bring it right above this area, and you can use something called as the scale tool. And with the scale tool selected, I can click and I can drag this down or up any way you want. Okay, so let me drag this a little down and up. Or you can just press and hold Alt and click. And now you can make this uniform transformation to about 90% and click on OK. Now I can do the same thing over and over again by using the copy option. So I'll show you how to do this in a second. So you see that I'm using, okay, let's go for 95% and click on copy. So now I'm going to do this, Control D to do this kind of a way of doing the asset. And now this is how it's going to look like. So this is only one part of the logo done. So it's like having infinite boxes inside, right? So this is the one part of it done. Now I'm going to do the same thing. This is with the red, right? We are just maintaining this with the red. Now what I will do is I will create one more copy of this, but this time I'm going to use a black and white variation of this box. So I'm going to bring it right to the side, and we're going to select both together, and we're going to bring them right below. And there it is. Now all we have to do is select that and change the color to black. So now you see I'm going to change this to black, and we're going to change this to gray. And we're going to do the same thing in here. Right, so that's your Excellence logo recreated. And this is how it's going to look like. So that's your new Excellence logo, and your old Excellence logo is here. So you can recreate these kind of logos. I will show you in a second how do you do this. Let me show you this again from scratch. So what we did was we selected all these boxes in here, and I just created a copy of one. So I press and hold Alt key from my keyboard. So when you press and hold Alt key is in here if you want to show it. So if you press and hold Alt key from your keyboard, with the Alt key selected, you will be making it larger or smaller. So with the Alt key selected, you can make it larger or smaller. So you can copy the image. So press and hold the Alt key over here. And with the Alt key selected, you're going to make a copy. And once you make a copy, now we'll select this and we'll give stroke. So I'm going to click on this button. It will only give me stroke. Now with this stroke selected, we will select this as it is. And now we're going to select this button, which is the scale tool. Now with the scale tool selected, while keeping and holding the Alt key, click at this center. And as soon as you click on the center, it says we are going to make it smaller. How do you want this to be? Let's say, let me make this as 99%. 99% uniform, make it smaller, copy. So it just makes a copy. Now I'm going to repeat the step by pressing Control D. So if you press Control D, it's going to repeat the steps. And this is how it's going to look like. So this is an example of how you will be going and creating, different kinds of copy of the same image or the same areas. You can make the stroke less. Right? And it's going to look something like this. Or you can just keep it as it is. There you go. That's another logo of your excellence. So here you can create multiple ways of the same asset by using these tools. So what we do is we're going to use that and we're going to change color. You can also change color by clicking on this and double clicking on the box and selecting the color in here. So in this case, I will select red. If the color doesn't change, please make sure you're clicking on the color swatch and then selecting color. Sometimes if the color doesn't change, then you have to do this. So that's your excellence logo recreated. So from this, you can create multiple shapes. You can also, overexpose this on top, and you'll get this kind of image as well. So if you want, you can do that. So you can create variations of the same image. So this is just an example of using your first 4 tools. So by using the first 4 tools, you can create your excellence logo. So just draw a box in here first. And then with your direct selection tool, you can give a curve radius. And then you can create a copy of this beside. And then you can select both of them together, make one more copy. And then with everything here selected, oops. It's not coming perfectly in the straight line. So there you go. So that's how you can recreate it. And once it's done, you can select the shape, double click on the color and change the color to whichever color you want. Okay. Like so. And that's another variation of excellence created. So here you can create these kind of logos at any given point by just using the shape tools. So that's an example of this. Now you can use the same technique with any other asset in order to create different types of logos. So let's say you want to create a leaf. You can do that by simply selecting the box. And then you can select the direct selection tool to make one side curve, select the next tool, another side curve. So there you go, we have a leaf. And you can use this for giving a bright green color. And you can make a copy. Maybe you can give this a little more darker color to it. And you have the leaf added. And you can do this. So if you want, you can do that as well. So you can add leaves, or if you want, you can add flower, like a bud as well, like a flower bud. So all you have to do is do the same exact design, this time a little more thicker. We're going to change this to red. And we're going to make one more copy beside. Gonna change the turn, one more copy inside here. And we're going to make some changes in here. I see, I'm going to make like slight change over here like this, bring them near. Gonna do the same thing in here, make some slight change, gonna move them near. And then we're gonna select the top one, give them a lighter tone, give the next one brighter tone, the last one much more lighter tone. Now we can select this and bring it inside, and we can send this behind. So how do you send this behind is by pressing, or you can just click, select, right click, arrange, send to back. You can do that as well. So once it's done, now you have this design. You can also resize it if you wish. And that's about this. So here you can give like different variations. You can obviously give different kinds of design. I think the flower is too big. We can make it smaller. And we can send this behind. How do you send this behind is again, right click, arrange, send backwards, right click, arrange, send backwards. That's it. You can make these two small as well. This is an example for that. So here you can create these kind of logos, these kind of designs just by using the first four tools. I have not used any other tool in this case, only the first four tools, that's it. So this is an example for that. And also you can also create multiple different things as such. Now for that, we will be learning it later on. So how you'll be creating like a real flower. So if you want to create a real flower, then you will be doing this. Just a second, let me do that again. So you can, if you want to create like a flower design, then you can do this. And I will give about 10 degrees angle to it, say 25 degrees rather. Okay, and then you can press this Control D to create these kind of patterns. And then you will be selecting these patterns and you will be adding a little more here in here. You'll select. And I will use scale for this. Or you can just select everything together. And you can select scale tool. Click on that. And let me make it about 40% copy. Or let's say 90% copy. In order to create these kind of designs. So yes, obviously you will have different approach to do the same thing. You will be learning how to do them later on, not now. Obviously you'll be learning all these things later on in classes. So those things again will involve a little bit of skill and stuff. So you'll be learning those first, those later on. But first you do the basic things. All right, guys. So that's everything for today's class. So only the first four tools we have discussed. So please practice these four tools, not anything more than this. And hopefully we'll be having the next session on the other tools which we have. And obviously it's going to be a little more advanced. Any questions so far? If you have any, please do let me know. I'm going to pause the recording here.